are,
go.
Jim. Here it is.
All right, guys. Looks like we have a quorum, and I think the only person we're missing tonight is Lou from the Stevenson Museum. So, good group here. Carrie, you just logged on, yes? You're on mute. Brittany, you're on mute. Rob, you're on mute.
Do you want us off mute?
No, not necessarily. I just making sure you guys knew.
Okay.
Carrie, you're on mute too. Do you want to bring this meeting to order for us? She's looking at me like, stop it, dude. I'm working on it. We'll give her a sec.
Hi, Rob. Hi, Carrie.
Sorry, my phone was frozen, so
No
I
worries.
couldn't get the screen up to turn the mute off. It's been a day.
Mute myself because my microphone's a little not so good. John Stippen told me. And then we also have Jason Wakunis from PCT Days joining us today, who actually made the agenda. So he gets to see we've been talking about it. All right, I'll put you on mute. Carrie, it's all yours.
All right, I guess we'll do roll call then, handing it over. Jeremiah, are you managing the roll call? Or is Carrie?
I can do that. John
Carrie.
Stippen.
Here.
Jason, oh no, Janice Crane.
Here.
Rob Peterson. Commissioner Peterson. Apologize.
So good to see you, Brittany.
The nod is a yes. Commissioner Clute.
Here.
Lou Palermo. Absent. And Brittany Berge. Did I say Brittany already?
I don't remember, but
I
I'm
don't
here.
remember. I'm happy to see your face in a Zoom call. All right.
All right. Thank you, Jeremiah. And then are there any modifications, additions, or changes to the agenda today?
Not from me.
All right. All right. Any declarations of potential conflicts of interest?
Hey, I got something to say here. I just noticed in reading down on the directives of tasks, no big deal. My last name's spelled wrong and it happens all the time. But just to be clear, after my name and in the subject line there, it says Pacific Crest Trails Association. I didn't know if you guys were attaching me or think I'm with the PCTA, but I'm not. I
think Rob was tasked with reaching out to both you and PCTA.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Sounds good.
Is that correct, Rob? I don't mean to speak for you. Okay. Looks like that was good. And we will fix what? How do you spell Wakunis?
Oh, it's where the I is. It's an A. It's okay.
Okay.
All right. So we need to approve the minutes from the advisory committee meeting on July 22nd. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes from July 22nd.
All right. Is there a second?
I can second that.
All right. All in favor of approving the minutes from July 22nd? Aye.
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 And anybody not in favor? All right, motion passes. All right, discussions, update on directives and tasks. I'm on the first one on the agenda, and my directive was to reach out to WHAM to start building that relationship with them, Red Bull, and local businesses. Unfortunately, since the last time we had our meeting, I caught COVID and had it for like 2 weeks, and then had gone out of town. So I have not had a chance to get much done. The weekend I was planning on going to WHAM to actually talk to them in person was the weekend I had COVID. Well, both weekends, in fact. So kind of put a damper on getting some of these tasks taken care of. I did talk to Thunder Island about their contribution to supporting it. Obviously, it's a little early to get them involved, but they are definitely interested in hosting a beer garden. So I don't think that we're going to have problems with that. But I definitely want to start talking to other local businesses. I have not followed up with Red Bull yet. Rob, I did get the information from you on who to reach out to. So I'm going to put some feelers out there um, for more hopefully for more responsiveness from Red Bull, because it would be really cool to have them as a sponsor and perhaps get that airplane fly under the bridge as a potential possibility.
Yeah, one thing with Red Bull, they won't do a fly-in unless they have big sponsors. So that's some work on their end, or maybe our work too, to bring them big sponsors for the plane. So I would, you know, once you do get
Big sponsors, aren't they the big sponsor?
but they also like to go in with other people too, like other big names and stuff. So
Right.
we could advertise, you know, obviously outdoor apparel industry out here. This is kind of a headquarters in Portland. Stuff in that line. So
Yeah, and then that should be probably a direct or a discussion or update task that we need to look at is how do we get sponsors for this? Because we are going to need some sponsors, likely not just Red Bull, but anybody else that might be interested in sponsoring it and having tents set up. So, you know, we have our businesses that could help sponsor, like Thunder Island and Gorges and Backwoods, etc. But any other bigger sponsors?
Just some history on that Red Bull for you, Jason. I got tasked with this back when I was in the operations manager. I was actually, John Stippen was pushing to have some sort of fly under for a plane to fly under the bridge to recreate. I'm sorry, his name's just escaping me all of a sudden.
Lindbergh.
Thank you, Lindbergh's flight. And I kind of went through this weird channel where I reached out to the Red Bull's flight team. They have a stunt flight team. And I don't know how I got there or who I got to, but I sent them like this description of what we had in mind. And they were like, that sounds awesome. We're very, very interested. And then it was like, all right, well, it's still 3 years out, but let's keep talking. We didn't keep talking. And now we're trying to re-engage that contact and we've lost it. So at one point in time, they thought it was a really cool idea. They were super behind it. They knew it was a long ways away. And now we just can't get in front of those right people again, although we're trying. But out of the gate, they were like, that's super cool. We would want to be involved. I think that's why Red Bull keeps kind of popping up, is like they have a flight team. They would know what to do with the FFA. They would know how they were going to get 1 million YouTube hits off of this, and it would be sort of their own thing we wrap into it. So we had traction. It was a while ago. We've lost it. We can't find our new contact.
Okay.
Yeah. And the contact at WAM, the connection with WAM, the Antique Aeroplane and Automobile Museum, is that kind of our idea for this event is to make it an air and auto show. So to maybe have a fly-in or have planes fly through the gorge, fly by the island, and then have some antique, like an antique car show or something. Really highlighting even cars that were from the 1920s, considering the bridge opened in 1926. So having a museum like that to partner with when they have access to all of the airplanes and automobiles, especially antique ones, would make for a pretty interesting event. And we're not dead set on this idea. Like if it doesn't gain traction or whatever, it's not necessarily the end all be all. But I think having that as a theme for the event is something everybody's really interested in.
awesome.
All right, Rob, you're next on the agenda with your reaching out to Jason, who is on the call, and also any contact you may have had with PCTA.
Yeah, I'll go with PCTA first. I did reach out to the main info line for them, and I did get a response from Jeannie Russell from Portland area. She's the newish Columbia Cascades regional representative. And then she also works in North Bonneville. And then we also got another contact from her, Mark Larby. He was part of a Pulitzer winning prize team for the Oregonian, and he's the actual PCTA's advocacy director. So I haven't had time the last couple of weeks to follow up with them, but I'm going to start seeing what they would like to do in participation with this Centennial event. So, and then as far as PCT days, I think that was a big hit, Jason, right?
Yeah, this was thank you. Yeah, it takes me a week to process it, you know. It was an amazing turnout. There's a lot of good information I'm going to share with you all via email shortly. The attendance, the amount of money raised for nonprofits, food banks, etc. But this collective effort now, between my team and the Port of Cascade Locks, you know, we've got this. We've got an awesome formula that's working really well. And you know, we had a little hit with the weather there on Saturday, but I prepared for it, and no regrets. You know, missing out on some live music and shortening the day resulted in saving a lot of equipment damage and people's safety. So, yeah, good job to the port and their staff. Parker and the team were amazing. My team was amazing, and yeah, it's just a wonderful thing. The sponsors thank me every year, but this year especially, they took an extra minute when they were driving out, or the emails are starting to fly in, and I think this was what we'll call the year. So that and the Sternwheeler ride really resonated hard with the Oregon Outdoor Alliance. That was a huge deal, where those people don't get together that often. Like, these are people, you know, sponsor representatives from the East Coast, the Midwest, 2 from Japan. And, you know, they might see each other once a year at a trade show or something, but to get together in the marine park and go for a ride on the river, it really had a favorable impression, and we hope to do that again next year. So, yeah, thank you all for the support.
Absolutely. And I think the reason we called you in on this particular meeting is that we want to see about possibly leveraging your expertise in throwing events and see if, you know, we can utilize your support, you know, obviously paid support, to potentially help us create this Centennial event for the Bridge of the Gods in 2026. So we're looking at like doing this event on a single day, possibly a full weekend. We don't have anything nailed down yet.
Okay.
And sometime in September of 2026.
Yep.
And so I know it's kind of close to the PCT Days event, and I don't know how much that would conflict with your schedule for planning, or if, you know, you'd have to do parallel planning to help support both events. But because you are so successful at throwing these events at our marine park, and you know all the loopholes and ins and outs of what is needed to support a large event like that, we thought bringing you in for that expertise would be something you might be interested in.
Sure. Yeah. On a logistical front, you know, I wake up in the night having dreams about potholes in the park. I know where everything is in that park. I'm just kidding, but I really do know it. But in regard to, so that's logistics. And then, you know, in regard to sponsorship, I've been taking some notes there. I do agree on an earlier statement where Red Bull, the reason they're being like that isn't in paranoia, or they're just making sure that this is something legitimate and well-rounded. And that would mean probably 3 to 5 in total large corporate sponsors. And once they see each other's names, you know, then they will see more confidence to play together in that pool. Mm-hmm. And then that also helps out round out the other sponsors, right? But you know, this is the first meeting, by the way. I'm not going to press fast forward and go into the depths of planning. I'd like to be more of an ear than a mouth on this particular meeting, and then be in attendance in the subsequent meetings. Do you plan to have another one of these in, say, a month or weeks, or what is the schedule?
Monthly meetings at this point, but yep, we will ramp them up once we get to a point where we feel we need to start having more frequent meetings. You know, we're still 2 years out from the actual event. but we really want to start laying the groundwork for the event at this point and really drumming up interest and sponsors and, start some of that planning and setting on dates, because for the kind of event that we want to have, it will take 2 years to plan it.
Yeah, for a one-off anniversary or commemoration, what this is, one-day event, I kind of have a vision in my mind. It can be done in a year, but I really, I like 16 to 18 months. That's usually
Yeah.
when you really got to get going.
Right.
Out of this. As far as I do have a couple real quick specific questions. So the location for this, is this exclusive to the marine park? Do you think there's going to be things on Main Street? I mean, it's not in concrete, but what is the vision as far as locations? Is there any thought of the industrial park? Obviously, if it's a fly-in, you're talking about the airstrip over there.
Mhm.
Is there any kind of vision for that or not yet?
I think we're still in that visioning stage.
Can you open up the
Ideas
chat,
are floating
Jeremiah?
up, and some are going to make it and some won't. And I think that's still where we are.
Okay.
Depending on how big we think it's going to get, like we could do, there's thoughts on using the business park as overflow parking and having some kind of shuttle to get people to
Absolutely.
the park and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the host slash owner is going to be Port of Cascade Locks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And the reason is it's a commemorative 100-year anniversary of the Bridge of the Gods, right? That's the theme here.
Yep.
Okay.
Centennial.
Yep.
Can you open up the chat, Jeremiah? I'm just going to put some things in there, but some ideas I thought of, so we could all look at them.
The other question is, the last question in this just real bulleted short list, as far as your budget goes, obviously that's an ongoing thing.
Mhm.
The event's going to take place in 2026. So is that going to be pulled from a forecasted 2026 budget that the port drafts up?
We're getting budget every year dedicated to this. So we have current budget right now.
Okay.
In the 2024-25 budget, and then we'll have more budget in the 25-26 budget and so on. So
Okay.
It'll be building probably. And if there's any expenses that pop up in the near term, we'll have budget for that. But, we don't really anticipate that to happen
Okay.
right away.
Do you think, I don't know this, but it just kind of dawned on me. I wonder if there's any kind of grant assistance that can be obtained from the state or tourism. What am I saying? Like the Oregon tourism something, et cetera, for something that's centennial like this.
My guess is Janice Crane could probably weigh in on that.
Yeah, we got our resident tourism person on the phone, Janice. So
Oh, great.
Yes, there is grant money available for promoting this.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
and hopefully we get some money from sponsors to maybe help with some of the expenses. I'm not really sure how all that works, but between those three avenues of funding, hopefully we have enough to throw a pretty cool party.
Yeah. The thing, obviously with PCT days, I'm optimistic there's some big hitter sponsors that might be interested in this because they have confidence in a history with the event, confidence in me delivering a return on investment, so to speak, and also they've been down there. So there's from the top down, I'd say a healthy start list, I would say. But yeah, being that it's really hyper focused on air and auto at this time, that means obtaining contact information and chasing and all that. I think if I come into this and I'm an independent contractor, all signed in and all that stuff. I think one good note is that I have a pretty good track record of 17 years and working with hundreds of companies. And certainly if we're approaching a new industry that I haven't been a part of, the air and auto part of things, they would see what PCT days is and all that. And I have a lot of confidence that this event could get supported and the means that it needs to, is what I'm trying to say.
John Stippen, I cannot open up the chat. We're working under commission permissions on this for commission meetings. If you directly send them to me through chat or through email, I'll make sure they go out to the rest of the group.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Any additional thoughts from you, Jason, on coming in as a consultant?
Yeah, I think I'll shut up about details because I'll keep you here for hours. We'll go. My brain is full of fun stuff. What is the timeline that you or I should say, yeah, what is the timeline that you want to know if I'm, you know, the guy and all that stuff, and when do the contracts get drafted, and when I can look over things, and you know, we can work together on this. It's not just a you to me. It's both of us slinging information back and forth. But what's your timeline on? Okay, this is our guy. And then I'm committed.
I would imagine contracts aren't going to be drafted until after the new year.
Okay.
Right now it's conceptual.
Sure.
And building our contacts and then gauging the seriousness of them. And then I think we'll have time to allocate towards drafting something up.
And then as far as just the logistics on the government side of it, this group would make a recommendation to the commission for me to work with you to negotiate a contract. So
Yep.
We'd go to the commission would approve it. Me and you would negotiate a contract, and then that's where we'd sit down and hammer out details. So
Sure.
they'd make the recommendation to the commission would review it, then they'd hammer out the details, or me and you would hammer out the details. So a little bit of time there as well. But yeah, after the first year, I think Rob's right on there.
Okay, that sounds good. I made notes about early January, and click our heels. We're going to be there soon. So
I know.
Another potential idea is figuring out the timeline for ODOT and the completion of the Columbia Historic Highway. I know they got at least a 1.7 mile section after Mitchell Point between there and Hood River. Once they get that done, you'll be able to bike all the way from Astoria to the Dalles on that trail. So
wow.
If there's a line around the same time as Centennial, we might want to consider including ODOT in the conversation to see if they want to participate or sponsor this sort of event, even though the bridge is privately owned by the port. So.
Cool. And I think we probably have lots of great ideas that we still need to splash around for what we want. So I don't know that we need to do it during this meeting, but for subsequent meetings, for sure, start narrowing down kind of a plan of what we're looking for to see how to move forward, the best way to move forward with that plan. All right, so the next item on the agenda is Janice.
Hello.
So how are you coming with your tasks? As good as the rest of us?
Oh, yeah, I'm great. So I was able to access a new product from Travel Oregon that they've put together, which is a toolkit for bringing new tourism products to market, including events, that has like a step-by-step guide of what you need to do to get a new tourism product to market. So that is available to us, and I have that ready to share.
Oh, sweet.
I've also got some pretty enthusiastic feedback of like, yes, let us know when you're ready for support on that from Travel Oregon and from the regional, the RDMO.
Okay.
So whenever we're ready to start going for sponsors, there are going to be funds available to support us with advertising. And I got to chat a little bit with a couple of folks about what to expect for the 250 Oregon Commission, which is a new state commission. And that will have funding associated with it as well to support history events and heritage events happening in 2026.
Cool.
And
Good.
then the only like kind of sad news I have for you is that Paul Enquist is retired, and I haven't been able to convince him to come out of retirement yet to do the art, but I'm still working on him.
That's a bummer.
I think he's going to eventually come around to it, but I don't think he emails very much, and that's the only contact I was able to access for him. So whenever he checks his email as a retired person, I think that we'll probably get a little bit of interest from him just because of he's already got most of those assets together to be able to make that piece pretty easily.
Oh, yeah.
And I will also say that the referral source that got me his contact info did ask that in exchange for the referral, that if we do any merchandising, we do it through their company.
Jeremiah has it on the screen. The reference of some of the art he's done. He also has one of the Spirit of St. Louis flying under the bridge. But he does pretty
he
awesome.
wouldn't have to do much but change the words, which is why I think that we will be able to convince him to come out of retirement sometime in the next 2 years. But
Right.
If not, I'm happy to reach out to other artists and see what could possibly be available. Or
If you guys strike out, I can put you in touch with Matt of the Landmark Project. They're the ones that have generated the PCT Days, poster, which has a similar retro feel to this, like this. They're pretty cool people, and for something like this, they'll probably give you a little friend rate. But yeah, they're based in South Carolina and very communicative and very good at what they do. Not trying to push it, just saying if you're striking out, Matt is a super guy. They've been at the festival the last 10 years.
Might be a really good plan B. We like Paul because he's local and he's done all of the art before.
Looks good.
Retired, then
Well, his retirement job is that he's a pastor, so we could show up at his church and try to drag him out of retirement if we want to get really weird about it. But he's publicly accessible.
All right. So, and it sounds like there's grants available for us through the Travel Oregon stuff. So that's awesome. If you find out any more info about additional grants that might be available, let us know. And I know you're good about figuring out like deadlines of when we have to apply for stuff by. But we should probably look at making sure we're ready to apply for things as the opportunities present themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hate adding that task to you, but you are like the best at writing applying for grants and requesting them. So I would probably put that on as a tasker for you as well, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, potentially. We'll cross that bridge when we get closer to a deadline that's relevant.
Okay. So nothing, even though it's 2 years out, there's no like deadlines that are approaching or pending, because I know sometimes you have to apply way ahead of time.
The only thing that's open right now is the Wine Country license plate grant, which is a food-based grant. So if you were looking at doing like a feasibility study for throwing a food festival, that would be relevant. But otherwise, you're looking at spring of 2025 for when the next round of like big tourism dollars is coming available.
Okay, good to know. All right, we'll keep that on our radar then. All right, any other items from you, Janice?
No, I just did have one little popcorn idea while you were speaking about getting big corporate sponsors. Could In Situ do a drone fly under of the bridge?
I thought about that, but the state of In Situ is a little shaky right now, so I'm kind
of course. We could do a really cool drone show, though. Like this could be the thing that brings drone shows, and I know we've talked about that before.
Yeah, but I was thinking like maybe we get a drone company sponsor, because they're big busy times a year, probably like 4th of July and New Year's, but what are they doing in September? So maybe we could get a drone show sponsor to give us a discount and really show off like what a drone show could be, to intrigue our local residents for future possibilities.
Yeah, there's also the idea of involving the stern wheeler in the celebration of the bridge too, by doing some sort of passing under the bridge or someone rappelling off the bridge. I don't know, something crazy.
Well,
Let's
yeah,
go
so
bungee
the other
jumping.
popcorn idea that I have, and that I've mentioned, I think, to a lot of you individually, but not in a meeting. So there's that company that does the bungee jumping out of Crooked River out at the Peter Ski and Ogden State Scenic Area in Central Oregon. And that's right at the end of their season. And I'm wondering if they would come set up and do like a pop-up on just the one day and have people bungee jump off the bridge. Like, it could be really fun.
And people drive over the same bridge that people are bungee jumping from, because I don't know that would be able to close the bridge.
Yeah, it's got a platform that sits out this. So if you haven't seen it before, they've got this like attachment that they do to a big old railroad bridge that's been converted into a pedestrian bridge. And I don't know how compatible that is with the Bridge of the Gods, but I think it might be an interesting conversation to have.
I'd be down. I don't know that I'd be down with actually bungee jumping, but watching people.
Oh yeah, I'm here to watch for sure.
One thing I'll make a comment about that, and as soon as I heard it, I thought, oh man, you're going to pay out the nose for your insurance policy.
Right.
Yep. Those kind of things. Hell, on my policy, if you had like a bounce house for children or climbing walls, just small stuff like that, up. It's the insurance world has gone crazy with liability. So just consider that.
Definitely something to consider. Maybe it's something that if they want to do bungee jumping and charge people for it, they bring their own insurance. And
Yeah, that would be my hope with using a company like that that contracts with the state, is that they've already got most of those avenues kind of navigated. But
and then like when people pay to go bungee jumping, they pay extra or whatever, the insurance piece is included individually or something.
Shutting down the bridge could be challenging, but it could also be interesting from a legislative advocacy sort of play around the importance of that bridge. And we could talk about it, right? I mean, that bridge has a lifespan in the future, and it could be a celebration, but there could also be conversations happening in the side and in the background and in different ways that talk about how important this bridge is to this regional community and the effects that it has if this bridge wasn't here. We're going to take 2 days to celebrate it. We hope you enjoy it. And then on the backside, we have our lobbyists, probably PCT Day or PCTA, some other folks talking about just how important that bridge is. You could probably 2 birds, 1 stone. You'd have to be clever about it, but I could see a pathway there that we could probably work the funding side of it. That's just me being a bureaucrat, but it's an interesting concept.
I think we definitely also need to use the opportunity to educate and fundraise and advocate for extending the longevity of our bridge. I mean, I've been doing research on the average lifespan of bridges, and it's like 50 to 70 years, and we're coming up on 100 years and expecting to get, maybe 2 to 3 more decades out of it or more, depending on what we can do to extend the life. So I think having those conversations in an advocacy tent and stuff like that would be really beneficial too. Anyway, all right, so next item on the agenda is Brittany. Did you get a chance to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce or the Aviational Historical Society?
So I have not heard back from the Aviation Historical Society. I did follow up with a secondary email, and they are just ghosting me entirely.
You know how that feels.
Yeah, it happens. As for the Chamber of Commerce in Skamania, yeah, I reached out to Angie directly, and she replied back, and she is happy to support us. I think maybe when we have like a stronger idea of what kind of ask we have for her, maybe we invite her into one of these meetings. So
Okay,
that's
good.
it, though, that she's happy to be the liaison to the businesses on the Washington side.
Hey, Brittany, feel free to CC me on anything that you send, being you don't have a POCL email address anymore. If you feel like it'll be helpful to add a little bit to it, to CC me on there, do it. I know you have I know you have the name
And a
recognition.
Gmail address. Yeah, I'll probably do that for my next attempt.
All right. Well, and now we have John. We don't want to forget about him. I think this is the first meeting you've been able to join with us so far. So we haven't assigned you any taskers yet, and we definitely should, because there's lots of stuff we can do. So feel free. This is your time.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for having this committee. I loved this last weekend. It was a blast. I was always thinking about, I worked for Toyota for a long time. I don't know if you guys know that in my younger days. And every single time anybody flew in from the Netherlands or wherever they came into, they came up to me and they said, hey, they're going to buy me this car. So, and the price was whatever they wanted. And it was because they were hired and employed by Phil Knight with Nike. And so my immediate thought was, the way they donate, he's got like, how many, $60 billion. And last year he donated $10.1 billion to just even nonprofits. And so my thought was, and I sent it to Jeremiah in a text message, because Nike, if they have kids involved, love it. And so I thought, if we're looking for a big sponsor, then maybe Nike would be the one, because they're here in Beaverton. They also love kids. If we had all the kids from our school write Nike a letter about the 100 years, we could format it. The kids could write it themselves. We could mail as many kids are in our neighborhood these letters to Nike about this Centennial. And I can imagine Nike saying, you know what, we're going to sponsor this. And, this is something that is, it could happen. And you have to think like that. And so I thought, if we can get all the kids involved, because when initially Lindbergh flew under the bridge, the story was that the kids from the school all, came out and they were near the bridge when Lindbergh flew under it. At least that's what I got from the history in the last 12 years from people that were talking about it when they were, kids in 1926. And so my thought was, if Red Bull's looking for a big sponsor, and if we can get Nike on board, there it is. The sky's the limit. They could pay for everything, really, if we can get them interested. And with the children writing letters from our schools, because we don't have a specific date, at least I don't think we do yet, nailed down. And if you look in 2026 of what's on the calendar, then perhaps we could nail down a date.
Yeah, we're looking sometime in September, probably, only because the actual anniversary, I believe, is October 27th, 2026. But that's probably too late in the season with weather and everything. So right. We would probably move it up to September.
So that was my thought, was as soon as I heard that big sponsor, I remembered, and so I looked up, Phil Knighty's 86, and there's a good chance that he might think this would be one way to share with the state of Oregon the celebration that we are planning. And so that was just one of my initial thoughts, especially, get these kids all to write letters. We'll pay for the postage and get them to mail these letters to Nike saying that we would like them to be a sponsor for this Centennial celebration. What?
That's a really good idea. My only thought on that is that I'm trying to think of how Nike ties into a 100-year anniversary for a bridge, or how they tie into like air and auto type stuff. But any big sponsor would be welcome, I think, at that point. And other ideas could be like, if we could get Ford or whoever made cars back in 1926 to be interested. That could be a big sponsor too. Stuff like that ties into kind of the theme of what we're looking for.
Well, at Hillsborough Airport, Phil Knight has one of the coolest airplane hangars, and I used to work at Hillsborough, and so he has airplanes, plural.
He's interested in
Yeah.
like antique airplanes. We could
It is
buy
Nike Airs.
It's just I'm saying that that's where I would go as soon as possible, and
Right.
I'm getting cramps in both my legs. I worked all day today, and
No.
I can't even move right now because my
Aw.
both cramped up. So I just want to tell you that that's something I'd be glad to go to the schools and talk to the kids and then get them interested. We could write up some kind of letters and maybe even have them do drawings or whatever they want. Did you see the text message I sent you, Jeremiah? Okay. And so there is links, and there, you can go to Nike, and it talks about how they give, especially to communities that involve the children.
Right.
And so
Well, cool.
something
Cool
to think.
idea. And just to recap on some other ideas that we had talked about since you missed previous meetings, John, is that in addition to all of these festivities and stuff that we want to hold, we would like to bring in, when they initially dedicated the bridge, Janice had given us a little bit of background. Like, I think the governor of Washington and the governor of Oregon had come out to do speeches. And then there was like a native ceremonial arrow shooting and stuff like that. So that's some of the stuff that we'd like to recreate as well. So I think we definitely need to look at, and I'm not sure, isn't there an election before 2026? So our governors might not even be the same during that time. So we should probably look at that and see. But whoever the governor may be, we want to make sure to reach out and see if we can get them on the schedule in order to give maybe a little speech about the bridge and the importance of it and how it brings our two states together and whatever.
I agree.
All right. All right. Are there any go backs on our discussions that we feel we need to talk about during this meeting?
A little bit here. It just dawned on me, the Bridge of the Gods, it connects two states. And per the initial notes here, we've talked a bit about Travel Oregon and grants from Oregon. Is there any idea of also tapping into, if they exist, a Travel Washington or other Washington agencies for additional grants? I mean, it sounds like this could be a real shared effort between two states.
Yeah, Washington's tourism organization isn't as centralized as Oregon's is, but there's definitely a lot of regional connections that we could make. And I think the Department of Transport would also be an avenue into that funding.
Yeah,
sure.
I think at the face value, PCTA is a multi-state organization on the whole West Coast. So that's kind of the start of exploring that. I'm also going to a conference in Vancouver next week, the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association. So I'll see if there's any Washington representation that might be in scope here.
Cool.
Sounds good. All right.
When's the next meeting?
Yeah. Agenda items for the next Centennial Celebration Advisory meeting. I think, in addition to all the follow-ups we need to do, hopefully we can actually make some progress on these tasks. Like, I'll actually make it to the WAM. Actually, this weekend is probably a good weekend to try to go for me, because they invited me to come in person to talk to them rather than try to talk in email. I've tried calling and they're really hard to get a hold of. So so I think hopefully I'll have some headway on that. Any other, aside from our normal taskers that we're following up on, are there any additional agenda items that we should add for the next meeting?
I'll continue the PCA research, and then I'll volunteer if anybody else doesn't, to explore the Washington grant opportunities and partnerships.
My suggestion, I looked at calendars and thought of some things. I'm pretty familiar with regional festivals and when they occur each year. You never, ever, ever want to touch Labor Day. I learned the hard way. We held PCT days on a Labor Day one year and it didn't go well. I think the best dates in 2026 are the 12th or the 19th, both Saturdays.
Well, and one thing I'm going to talk to Wham about is, so they do an annual fly-in in September of every year. It's one of their big fundraising events for their, so I want to see if they'd be willing to add us as kind of a partner to their fly-in event for 2026. And they've already got those dates scheduled. And if they do that, then, you know, they would just add us kind of as an extra event to their normal fly-in potentially.
Cool. Yeah.
And I would love to learn how to like convert our current little local airport into something that would also permit camping. So people could fly in and camp, bring your airplane, and then have like a bike rental place set up outside or at the airport. They can rent bikes, get into town, go to the festival, you know, have their planes there in their tent, buy their plane. I think
cool.
something like that would be pretty cool.
I should mention, my other half in the house here happens to be a pilot and a safety officer for the FAA.
Nice. That could be a
Now,
very
on a
good
legal standpoint, I don't know how she can be involved or not. We're about to have dinner in a bit, and I'll just see just to learn rather than rope her into anything. It's just
Right.
just a comment. Yeah, she's been air marshal at several of the regional shows in Hillsborough and all that stuff. So yeah, there's a little bit of
Cool.
background there. It might be fun just off the record to all get together for a lunch one day.
Yeah.
There might be some helpful info that she can provide in your planning purposes.
Just some trivia here. The FAA was established in 1958, so that was obviously after the Lindenberg bridge there.
Well, and I'm sure doing a fly under, like we've seen the emails back and forth. I think it would require like, if we try to get permission for it, it's going to be very difficult because it's going to involve Department of Homeland Security and other agencies, especially these days when recently the bridge collapsed by just bumping it from a ship. Like what would happen if an airplane flew into one? There's a lot of concern and stuff around that. So I feel like the fly under might be a very hard event to come by unless it's done by Red Bull, who has notoriously just asked for forgiveness after the fact or paid the fines or whatever. But
Yeah.
if you tell your wife to plug her ears if it were to ever come to that.
Yeah,
Well,
the hard part is that's a major flight path, as you know, coming down the gorge for all the commercial traffic, not just recreational. So there is a lot to that.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
but
think it's also airspace. A lot of that airspace is owned by like Whidbey Island, Navy, you know, the airspace, because as in situ, we have to go all the way out to Pendleton to do our test flights. Otherwise, we have to get government permission to fly, which is not easy to do.
Yep.
We'll solve the barge traffic. You know, you probably have to touch base with Bonneville Dam to stop traffic during the flight hour.
You know, there could be a flotilla, you know, of people on boats that go under the bridge during that time. That could be more of a like they do for on the Willamette for the Christmas lights and those kind of shows. I mean, there's a lot of things we could do with the river because, you know, billions of dollars go under that bridge every year.
Right.
It's commerce. And so there's a lot of really beautiful things that we'll put our minds together. I got to go, everyone. And so I will email and we'll continue this, but I appreciate you guys. I
think the next meeting, John, it's going to be the third Thursday of every month. So
third Thursday doesn't so the third, let me double check that.
I'm looking to, that would be September 19th.
That works perfect for you guys.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone. Thank you. Keep going. I got to split.
I think we're good. It's dinner time for a lot of people. So we went over all of the agenda items at this point. So if there's and no other go backs, I think we're probably ready to adjourn.
I have a question not regarding this. When is the next port commission meeting that, I always attend that after PCT days to say thank yous, answer questions, all the stuff. When is the next one I can attend?
Let's let me and you we'll take that one offline. We'll talk about
Okay.
it. See what works best. I want to do a debrief with me and you and everybody and staff first, and then we'll take it to the commission.
Cool.
Likely early in October.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Anything else before we adjourn?
No, it all sounds good, y'all. You got a good start on things. I mean, sounds like fun.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you joining very much. And well, for now, meeting is adjourned.
Have
a great
night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.